to Music is the Drug, Cowboy Junkies podcast, available on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, Stitcher, Podchaser, TuneIn, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to make sure you get every episode. I'm Dave Bowler, and I wrote the book Music is the Drug, the authorised biography of Cowboy Junkies, which came out last year. Over the course of the next few weeks, with the help of Timmins and Alan Anton, we'll be looking at songs from right across the Junkies repertoire, from White Off Earth Now all the way through to Ghosts. Today, we're going back to 2004 and the song Why This One, the second track on One Soul Now. For me, that album's a bit reminiscent of Pale Sun Crescent Moon in its slightly claustrophobic feel. Alan put some of that down to the band still getting to grips with recording themselves after years of working in commercial studios.
It does a bit, yeah. I think not as much, but it is a bit closed in, and that might have to do also with the recording experience at the time, but not have been broad enough to get some songs out of a certain sound area. I think so. That album is very similar sounding throughout, which can be a good thing, but also maybe not a good thing if you listen to a whole album of different songs that all tend to fall in the same the same ballpark as far as dynamics and energy and the whole thing.
For all the teething problems, having their own recording facility in Toronto, the Clubhouse, was a real liberation from fighting the clock in commercial studios.
Yeah, totally different experience. And it's what it is today. That's how kids record. It's got nothing to do with studio time. Must be a really weird concept to people these days. You pay $200 an hour to sit around and make music in somebody else's room because they have the gear, But yeah, we were slaves to that for almost 10 years. So to come out of that and realize that we could do it ourselves, because the technology was getting to the point where even idiots can run their own studio. Yeah, it just changed our lives, really, because we could spend so much more time and not even think about cost at all.
Why This One picks up the thread from the song we talked about last time, I'm So Open, as Mike explains.
It's the next record, and it's another couple of years down the road, and there's another kid involved as far as the details go from my life. But now I've got a second kid, and nothing's getting clearer. it's all getting a little bit more foggy, a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more unsure of future, and really it makes you pause and wonder. Especially with my family, I've got 2 adopted kids and 1 biological child, and so our family grew in weird and mysterious ways, and so it does really make you question. And with a biological kid, the kid's born and it kind of just grows up with you, and which is one way of one experience of raising a child. But with an adopted kid, you've had this kid who's come from, especially our two girls are from China, and you have no idea where they came from. You have no idea how they got to you. You have no idea who their birth parents are and their experience before you got them, before you adopted them. And there's a lot of questions, which we still don't know. We still don't know if we'll ever know. So there's lots of questions, not just about personalities and who are you, but literally, where did you come from? So I think that sort of, this song kind of talks about my oldest and my middle kid, Shu and Joe, and sort of the personalities, who they were becoming at that point. They're still very young, but they're becoming people, and just sort of questioning, why, and the chance, again, it's back to chance, that fickle finger of fate thing again. But questions are a big part of my writing. It's just full. I think the question mark is probably my favorite punctuation mark in my songs. When you get down to it, I think that's sort of what it's about. I think I really write with an answer. It's usually always a question. So.
Although Why This One came to be about having children and the random nature of it all, the original song itself dated all the way back to the Lay It Down sessions.
Yeah, you're right. I think, a lot of the songs on One Soul Now were written at different times. That record is kind of like we felt we needed to get a new record out, and so I kind of went back through some old notes and some old song. I think why this one we demoed actually for Lay It Down. So it is part of that period. No, we wouldn't have demoed it because unless I changed unless I rewrote it, because it's definitely about Joe and about Shoe, so they would have had to be there. So maybe we had demoed the music for it or something, or I had the chorus or something. I'm not sure.
Of all the dreams to hold, why this one is out of reach and cold as a distant sun. A dusty, simple-minded piece of fiction. Of all the dreams to hold, why this one? Then I hear those church bells ringing, those ancient hymns being sung. Catch my breath and count my blessings and whisper, why this one? Another night in bed with you, another day beside you gone. Slipping softly off to sleep, you say, do you ever wonder why this one?
If you'd gone through the application process to adopt a week later, 3 months later, I guess you would have had a different child.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's so amazing, with Shoe and that happens the entire process. It's a very long process, and I think with Shoe, there was a strike in Ontario, of city of provincial workers. So our application got stalled by literally months. So really, if there hadn't been a strike of all mundane things, we would have had a completely different kid. Like it's just bizarre, that those sorts of things are kind of freaky. I mean, obviously it's the same thing with a biological child. If the child had been conceived on a different day, you'd probably have a different kid because the genetic makeup would be different. But this way just seems more kind of more real in a weird way. And then with Min, we were in the process of adopting our second kid, and then our biological child Joe came along, so we delayed it. So again, we delayed the process by another year or so. So again, if we had gone through, Min would not have been in our life. It would be somebody else, and it's just and as I say, that's obviously the way biologically there's similar choices or similar elements of fate, but with the adoption process, it just seems so random and so it's just so down to you get what you get, and you don't get upset. It's really weird. It's a very weird process, and very powerful because of that. It's you do feel faded in a way, in a strange way when you with these kids, because there has to be a reason why you connected with them, far beyond us to understand, or maybe there's not. Who knows?
With one song there, you did that anatomy of a CD, of an album thing, because we all thought that CD-ROM was going to be the future. But that was a really interesting sort of side project to be able to trace the development of the songs. I mean, that's a very unusual thing for any band or artist to put out, because it's like putting your sketches or your dirty washing out before the public.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, I love that stuff. I love this. I love behind the scenes. Like of course, we've just had the biggest behind the scenes event for years with the Get Back documentary, and I love that stuff. I could sit there and watch 8 hours of the Beatles fucking around for I could watch 20 hours of that, or any artist who I appreciate, and I just love watching other people's work process and seeing where the genesis of ideas and where things come from. And it's funny, I've had so many discussions about it with people, I think there's some who are just bored with it, but many more than I thought, because I thought it'd be a real musicians thing, because when I look at them in the studio, I think, this is just like us. Like this is like like any band would recognize this, like the dynamic and the boredom and the tedium and the fucking around and the sort of just like the, you know, one guy getting pissed because the other guy's not working, and one guy whatever too hung over to do his job, that, you know, whatever. It's so banned, and this is the Beatles. Like, what? You're not supposed to be like us. And so I really loved it from that point of view. But I'm talking to so many people about it, and people are just you know, people even without that experience are fascinated by it. So I think it's just because the Beatles are just such a, you know, they're so much in our consciousness, and you know, forever, and their work is there, and so to realize that you can break it down into such mundanity is I think for even a non-musician or somebody who doesn't have a glimpse behind the curtain is kind of fascinating. So yeah, I just love it. It's so amazing. You know, to me, that's if I read a biography of an artist, a musician, I want the whole thing to be about, you know, the making of records. You know, that's, to me, that's what's the most interesting thing. So the anatomy of an album for One Soul Now, yeah, it was just, you know, we were getting into new technologies, and CD-ROM was sort of coming about, and I had access to somebody who knew how to put them together and had all this information. You know, we're always looking for ways of sort of expanding what we do, as far as, you know, making the album is one thing, but it's kind of fun to try and put deluxe editions together if you have something relevant. And we were striking out on our own at that point, and the internet was, as far as selling things on the internet, was kind of fresh, and people were actually buying things, you know, from individuals at that point rather than going to the mega Amazon, whatever. So, you know, we could create things, and then it was an easy way, and we had a way of getting things to people, you know, directly through the internet, through direct sales, basically, relatively easily and efficiently. So it was kind of fun. It was a fun project. It was very, you know, a limited edition, very expensive and very time consuming to do, but it was kind of fun.
That's the end of the fun for this episode, but we'll be back to look at another song next week. Before then, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, just to make sure that you never miss a new episode. You can also like it, add reviews, and tell your friends that we're here. Thanks to those of you who've already left ratings and reviews. We really appreciate it. To keep up with the band, head for cowboyjunkies.com, and if you're a Spotify user, you can also follow our growing playlist. All the details are in the show notes. We'll be back next week. See you then.